We're talking everything from pasta making to movie sets and more with our very artistic guest on this episode of We're No Damn Experts.
Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You want to get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames. If you want to go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Newth.
And we're No Damn Experts. Shannon, what do you have in store for us today?
I am very excited, and I'm very excited for you to know her as well, Rebecca, and to our listeners, because this was even more of a surprise than normal for you.
All I had in my email was podcast with Shelly. That's all I got. And then Shannon's
And
like,
then
are you excited? I'm like, how am I supposed to get excited over our first name?
Well, I'm excited. Yes. So we have Shelly Walker with us on the podcast today. Shelly, thanks for being here. So I first met, and I actually don't know how much we're allowed to talk or not talk about this in terms of details. We can stay away from details, but
You can just tell her to shut up if she's going too far in.
But I first met Shelly in October, and we rode around in the very back row of a Suburban together for a while. So that's how I met Shelly. Questions?
Yeah. Was there beer involved in that backseat, Rhodey?
There
should have been.
Not that time. I know that probably would have been helpful. Yeah. So I met her in the back seat of a vehicle because part of my role here at Tourism is one of my hats is film liaison, and Shelly was part of a crew of a film being produced right here in Great Falls, and so we were going around scouting locations that day. Mm-hmm.
All right, Shelly. So I got a number of questions now that there's no beer involved. Were you already in the Suburban when she showed up?
No, I think. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. No, I think we had lunch together first.
Yeah, we were somewhere in the hotel and then climbed in.
Yeah, we had lunch together first. So.
Okay. Now, how are you the person they say, hey, get in the vehicle, let's go scout locations? How does your phone
wide
ring?
open question. I like it.
On that particular project, we were working on a film called Pellet, and it was a true story. And I was a production designer on that film. So,
how do you become a production designer?
Well, I probably didn't do it the normal way, but
That's what we like. Time.
I don't know what the normal way is.
That's what we like. I don't think any of us have done things the normal way around here. Yeah.
I am an artist overall. I've been an artist my whole life. And I was a quality engineer here in Great Falls for Pasta Montana and General Mills.
Oh, I love pasta.
So that's kind of my background, but I continued painting and working in the art field throughout and raising my children and such. So about 5 years ago, I was working through my design company. I since have a design company, but I was working on a project in Shoto, actually, and I got called by a designer that had seen some of my work. And then I ended up, that was called Soy, the movie that they were working on then.
Okay.
And I had done a brain tanned antelope wedding shirt for a gentleman.
Oh.
And he was an actor, and he wore it on that film. And they asked where he got that, and so he referred to me. And then I made the rest of the native costumes for that film. And then after that, they sent me to a movie in Butte, and then they sent me to a movie after that at Yellowstone Film Ranch. And that was 5 years ago, and I just finished my 22nd film. So,
So when you say you're a designer, does it? I'm assuming clothes, and then you put clothes together, but does that also mean like logos or websites or what I would traditionally consider design? Does it include oil painting, watercolors? What's
That's
the
a good
extent of your
clarification.
talent?
All of the above.
I'm not necessarily in the clothing part, mostly scenic art, detail, paintings, so on and so forth. But I have done in my past tons of leather work. And so I do custom leather work. I just finished a elk shirt for a gentleman in Texas and a scabbard that matches it for his rifle. But, you know, I don't do it as much anymore. I do mostly the scenic art. And then from that, with my design company, I have experience in production design. And for the last 14 years, I've been doing big projects and such. So that kind of got me into that field.
And you do interior design along with that. That includes artwork. When we're done, you'll have to show
Correct,
Rebecca that beautiful wall that you designed with the rock work
Thank
too.
you. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, any type of design.
Yes,
Shelly
I do a
does.
lot of three-dimensional sculpting with drywall mud, elk coming out of the walls, streets of Paris,
My
all
gosh.
kinds of fun stuff like that. One thing that really has helped me in the movie field is my style is kind of an erosion style. So like as you're driving underneath a bridge going into Yellowstone or Glacier, you know, you see on the concrete all the erosion coming down under the bridges and so on and so forth. Well, I do mostly period pieces.
Okay.
So a lot of that type of painting is required in those situations for the Westerns. You know, whether it's rusting or peeling paint or plastering or whatever.
I got two more questions from what you've said. One, on the elk shirt and scabbard, did you kill the elk as well? I mean, we off air we were talking about.
yeah.
I do. I am a hunter.
Sharpshooting abilities.
Yes, I have killed several elk, a buffalo, a sheep. Yeah, I'm a hunter. But no, that one I ordered that from a company, so yeah, it was ready for me just to work on.
So Rebecca, before you get into your other question, has big dreams of, I don't know if you noticed the stairwell that I walked down, there's a big blank wall right there. She has hopes and dreams of having a bison.
Oh, nice.
There.
That's my favorite. Yeah, three-dimensional would be fun. Yeah.
I would love an original bison mount, but I've also seen during Western Art Week some like really amazing bison 3D head art that's like metal, and I'm like,
Oh, that would be cool too.
Yep.
to have a local artist featured who's done that. If I can't get a bison head mount,
Yeah.
that's the next option.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the interruption. I still remember my second question.
Great.
I know our listeners know this. Shelly, this will be your first time to know. I don't know a whole bunch about a lot of things. So when you say
Surprise.
designs on set, I'm thinking like a play where you've got a big piece of wood where you're painting the trees and the outside. Is that it? Or are we looking at
It's a good question. Yeah.
maybe different landscapes, like shoot this way, this is what the background should look like?
It all of that basically. Whatever the scene calls for. A scenic artist or, you know, production designer, because even as a production designer, I do the artwork. So whether it's changing the snow to look like grass by spraying it with food coloring,
Okay.
or whether it's painting a painting for over the bar in the middle of the night to have a painting over the bar, or whether it's changing new wood to old,
Okay.
all of
Okay.
it is encompassed in this.
My goodness, Shelly.
Let's, if we can, give some examples from Pellet, some of the things around here. I guess let's start when you came out to Location Scout here. So the movie is set in kind of 2010. Well,
From
the things in Great
1951
Falls.
to 2010,
yeah,
yes.
so you had a wide, for the shooting of this movie, which happened in the Shelby area and then here in Great Falls, I mean, you had a wide decades span
Yeah, because
of time frame.
1951 looks different
A
than
lot different
1910.
than 2010. You're right. So there's a big span there. How did you find things and where did you find things being here in more rural Montana for that film?
It was a blessing on this one.
Yeah.
A lot of them are a struggle, but the community of Cut Bank and Shelby were so accommodating in every way that I hadn't had much chance to go in and spend a lot of time like in a restaurant that we were going to change into a different style of a restaurant. So basically I went in one evening after filming and sat and had a sandwich and looked around at what I needed. And the waiter that was helping me, I asked him, I said, hey, I'm here as a production designer. I'll be here at 5 a.m. to change this out. a question I have is, do you happen to have a payphone anywhere that you know of? And he said, I've only been here a couple months, so no, I don't know. But by the time I went back to my shop and got more set deck, coming back to Cutbank that evening, I got a phone call from the owner and said, yeah, you'll have a phone here in the morning. And that happened with everything I needed. It was
nice.
amazing. It was so amazing that, it was that, and it never happens that way. But they're so accommodating.
Yeah.
They were so excited to have the story told in their community. It was a long time coming, and it's, it's well deserved.
Yeah.
So.
And you had, I know there were, so that just the hours you kept when because I was on scene with you, probably the majority of the time you were here in Great Falls. The hours that because it's a small crew too, the hours that you had to keep to make this happen are insane.
Yeah, it was 12 to 16 hours a day. One night I did an all-nighter, just to get the set done because we ended up all having COVID.
Yeah.
And they had to roll through
Did
that.
I tell you I got it like like a couple days after the wrap party?
Oh, no,
yeah,
of course.
I was down for the count. Yep. But I remember that I showed up out in the sun. Oh my goodness. Centerville area, excuse me. And you had just made a sign, right, the night before to put over a church sign out there to make it what it needed to be. I mean, she's just out there the night before making all of the things.
Generally, I have my trailer with me and I'll have a workspace. But everything was so crazy with the moving on the locations, continuously, that basically I just set an art room up in my hotel. And so I did that particular sign on the floor in the middle of the night and then stapled it up the next morning. One big set we did have was a jail. We built a jail in a garage area, and built it offset, took it onset, put it together, and filmed in it for almost a week and a half. And it looked like an authentic jail with cinder block and everything. So
when Shannon told me that they created medical rooms inside of a hotel room, you're the one masterminding that, so it doesn't look like what in my mind I imagine. We're just going to have them lay in this bed and hook them up to this. Like, you're pulling everything out and you're resetting everything so it looks like a real space.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy because after we got done filming one evening, I went over to the Great Falls Clinic area and set up 3 more sets: a doctor's office, a hospital room, and a waiting room area. And so by the time, again, I went back to my shop to get more set deck, and by the time I got home, it was like 11 o'clock at night. The director called and said contracts fell through on the 2 areas that we were going to film in. So we had to recover. We were starting to film at 7 in the morning. How are you going to pull this off, basically? So we did. We pulled it off. We put together the doctor's office in the hotel, and they were nice enough to, the director there gave us his office, and we turned it into the doctor's office. Waiting room we used as the waiting room. And then throughout the course of the day, I worked on getting the hospital equipment loaned to us by the Great Falls Clinic. And so it took until about 4:30, and we were filming at 5. At 4:30, the truck arrived. We had that room ready by the time the director walked in at 5 o'clock with the IV and the heart monitor. A nurse was standing there the whole 9 yards. Yeah, it was grace of God.
Yeah.
Just pulled that off.
There was so much about that.
How many times do you just throw up your hands and say, screw this, people, I'm done?
Never.
I never saw
never do
Shelly
it.
get, she just did it all. She
just
was
don't.
not flustered. She just made it happen.
I would lose my ever-loving mind.
That kind of stuff doesn't make me lose my mind, but there are some that do.
I was like, that means you're in the right business, I suppose.
Holy moly. So I have to ask, because this takes so much kind of similar skills to quality control for pasta.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How long were you with Pasta Montana, and do you love pasta?
I do love pasta. I was working for NQI, National Quality Inspections, at the time, and then I actually was down in Louisiana. I was a field office manager for a grain inspection company, all the commodities inbound going export. And so being from Great Falls, it was really difficult for me to live in Louisiana with my 3 boys, and they hated it. They hated me, and you know how that goes when you're going through.
You're ruining our lives.
Yeah, you know? And so, that experience down there, I knew they were building Pasta Montana at that time, so I kept calling back, and got an interview and finally got the job as a quality engineer there. And then when the Japanese bought the company, then I actually left the company.
Okay.
And then I went into my artwork again. And then I got called from Costa Mac in Pasadena. So I went down there, put together their HACCP program, their food safety program.
Yep.
And then after that, General Mills wanted to pick me up, but they had a hiring freeze on with Pillsbury at the time. So then after the 3 months I was down there, 9/11 hit. So I worked through that, have to drive back and forth, and then General Mills picked me up back in Great Falls. So I worked for General Mills for 4 years, and then I decided to go back into my artwork. So
I am such a nerd. I've gotten to dabble in that food manufacturing world. And so when you were talking about HACCP plans, I'm like, oh, that
yeah.
She's a nerd
just
like that.
the experience and the rules, and then you move into the shelving of the product and getting your product to market, and I love it.
Yeah, it's fun. And
So-
it has had a position in my art world too. We've done several restaurants. So as we're putting together these restaurants, you can take into that consideration the food safety program and how to make it easier and so on and so forth. So just kind of ease it in really easily.
And probably some of the way it looks. Last tangent on pasta. I love Pasta Montana so much that every time they have a case lot sale, I think it should be a tourism event. I think people should show up here and buy the pasta in the parking lot. And I go and buy the pasta. There's so much pasta in my house.
I actually
Yeah.
had some at lunch today. Some of the egg noodles from the
Well, you're
last
dealing
sale.
with Durham semolina from the Golden Triangle area. It's the best in the
best.
world.
That's right.
I don't know why people aren't spending more time in the
Yeah.
parking lot at Pasta Montana. Also, if you ever raid my house because the apocalypse is coming, you're going
got
to
the
have
pasta.
a lot of pasta. I have been now forbidden to going to the next case lot sale. However, if there is a pasta that I don't have in my house, I will probably still go and buy.
What's your favorite?
I don't know if I have a favorite, but I love the rotini. The way I just like it. The way it looks.
Yeah, like a cavatappi or a
Yep. So, and I make chickens. Well, here's a shout out to a local business. Penny's Gourmet to Go was a Main Street business down on Central. Fantastic food. She's made a bunch of cookbooks. I have one of them, and her chicken pecan grape salad
Ooh.
is to die for. And I make it probably 4 or 5 times per summer. And then we just eat that every night for dinner
Yeah, yeah.
until it's gone. And I love it. And I use Pasta Montana
Yeah,
pasta.
it's so amazing. It really is. And then when I started the company, I had the opportunity to set all the dye standards and work with the government QSIMs and so on and so forth. So it was really fun building all those products up.
And then you just get to sit and watch it come out. Be like,
All the testing, all the
Doesn't that look
testing.
good?
We developed a online moisture testing system. I went to Morning Light Coffee and got their old grinders that they had down in the
Oh.
basement, and I sent one to California down there. And so online at Pasta Montana, you have the coffee grinders that you take, grind the pasta, and then you can get online moisture.
oh,
So that kind of helps
wow.
with the drying too. So yeah, it's fun.
I just like watching the process. Okay. What? We're back to filming and set stuff.
Can I ask one more question about the pasta stuff?
Oh, sure. You can do whatever you want.
That seems like maybe I'm wrong, a male-dominated field to be up in management in an ag company like that. Was that the experience for you?
It was really difficult to get the job. I didn't know until later. But the gal that was the secretary, she's like, yeah, it was, they weren't going to hire you. They thought you would be a distraction, blah, 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 all that normal stuff that you get. And this was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and then once Nippon bought the company, then it started changing too. They really didn't want a woman in the management position that I was in, and so they put me into sales, and that's at the point I decided to go away.
Do your own thing. Yeah.
That makes
It's just
sense.
interesting just because I haven't heard as many of women in
Yeah.
those types of positions within ag-based companies.
Right.
So, yeah.
And at General Mills as well, I was so fortunate to be a part of both of those companies because they both actually required degrees, and I didn't have a degree. So from experience, I got both jobs, and then General Mills actually asked if they could send me to school. Just so they could fulfill their requirements, but they were going to pay for me to go back to school.
Nice.
And that pushed me back into my artwork. It's like, okay, I think I raised my kids doing this. Now I'm going to go do what I love. And that's how I ended up here.
Well, good for you.
Thank
Good
you.
for you. Okay, sorry. You can move on now. I'm
Okay.
just curious about
Thank
that.
you. Like you're just here as a sideshow and you're not allowed to talk.
I control your mic over here, by the way.
I know. So is watching movies difficult for you, being a set designer, production designer, because you can kind of nitpick things out? Or can you compartmentalize and then when you see things, you're like, oh, it's just a movie?
Oh, I've never been like a horror movie watcher, but I'm on my third or fourth horror movie now.
Oh, wow.
So I'm binging horror movies at night by myself. I mean, I'm watching werewolf and Dracula movies, and I don't have any fear because I'm watching things in a different way now. But yeah, I look at the set deck. I look at all of the details in all of the westerns and in different ideas. How does my backgrounds compare to, the movies in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and, just kind of, I watch as much as I can. So.
How do you compile, you referred to your kind of your warehouse for set deck. How did you compile all of that?
A lot of it is, I've always, being in the design and working in people's homes, you end up with stuff. So I've got my pile of stuff I've ended up with, and I'll revamp it and I'll, sell it and so on and so forth. Well, after the films are done, I'm generally the last one there. And if the production company is leaving town, they don't want to deal with anything. A lot of them sell the stuff like at 50% off, and a lot of them just leave it or walk away from it. Well, we have a warehouse affiliated with Yellowstone Film Ranch. And so we put a lot of that stuff in there, and we've developed this warehouse that we can pull from. So we've got beds, dressers, desks, everything, Western, everything, retro, anything that you need, basically. That's where we start. And then my supply is, say I'm doing a small movie, like I'm going to do this small little movie next weekend in Shoto. There's no budget there. There's no, you're on minimal daily wages, but it's great work. I love the smaller films. They're fun. They're exciting. There's just, I love that.
It seems like the environment of like everyone's really all in and committed to it. Yeah.
And they're not worried about the big stuff, And so I can take my props and my set deck and come in and use it and make a good showing and feed into the film a little bit and not worry about, having to go rent something.
Because it's not like LA where you have a prop shop right down the road.
Yeah.
Like we're talking hundreds of miles even just to get to the Yellowstone Film Ranch.
Exactly.
Area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it works out great. And I just have a 20-foot little warehouse thing, but nothing but shelving. But I've got china, I've got saddles, and all kinds of variety of stuff that I can choose from. When we have to do this film next week, I need bar stuff, so I can just pull all the bar stuff I have, and glasses or Crocs or spittoons or whatever. But that, and then I just, if I find something, I just kind of keep feeding into it.
I'm gonna take us down a meandering road, and I'm not even sure why I'm gonna do it, but here we go. When we were auditioning here in Great Falls at the Sip and Dip for the replacement for Piano Pat, I got invited for one of the nights to listen to the people who were auditioning. And the night I was there, I got to meet a woman that I don't think was you, because I just kind of think it wasn't. Well, no, there was a woman there also helping to judge all the contestants, but she was connected, I want to say, in Rudyard, and had this huge warehouse for like movie clothing.
Okay,
So
yeah.
instead of set stuff, she had clothing. Have you ever worked with this woman?
I have not, but I want to. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know who she's talking
I do
about?
not.
Okay,
I
well,
do
we can
not.
make this connection.
I could be wrong about Rudyard,
That
but I
seems
am
very random. but-
fairly positive that I am right about Rudyard and that this woman has all these like costume things in what sounds like a similar warehouse to
yeah,
your
yeah.
set
Similar
stuff.
concept.
In that warehouse, there is an entire section of clothing. So there's a clothing
Was it
designer.
you?
No.
That
No,
Okay, so there's another woman running around on the High Line that has some of this stuff.
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
don't know.
you should probably meet.
I will.
Yeah.
I'll have to figure that out.
If you're listening, lady, please call our office.
Right. Connect you with Shelly.
For sure.
But she was an amazing, delightful woman, and I was just as enamored as I am with Shelly about
That would be
moving
funny
to
if
this
that ended
world.
up being her.
Well, and
Yeah.
we work with production designer works with the clothing department and props and all of it, so we can pull it all together. So then my background that I'm painting doesn't clash with the clothing.
Right.
So yeah, we
That's
work
good
clothing
thinking.
together.
Well, and there's a lot of like
Show up in a yellow
Right.
dress
Right,
yeah.
and it's an orange background.
yeah.
You're like,
Yep.
That's not the vibe we were going for. There's a lot when you're watching movies or TV shows. I mean, there's subconscious things, like there's like a psychology to it, right? In terms of like placement and background and the whole like feel of a movie. I mean, it's more than just like, oh, this chair looks nice.
Right. Basically, my job is to bring the script to life, and understand how the script works to solve my problems. It tells you what they need, all of it. And then you take those characters and you bring them to life a little bit. You give them some history. Say you're doing a Western and the mother that's out in the prairie, might be part of a character that's throughout the film, but she doesn't have a lot going on. So you might give her some crocheting or, just something that can have her go to, and then you can kind of see that she's working on it, or just give her some personality a little bit, and that you just kind of feed into those characters however you can. And then, just kind of watch the script and make sure that you're not missing anything. That's the most important thing.
do you have some top memorable moments from movies you've worked on that you can share?
Oh, my. There's so many. We just finished a horror movie called The Wolf and the Lamb, and it was a vampire movie based in the 18th century.
Ooh, that's a fun one.
And every day we're either texting or calling, making our phone calls to our cast members and our crew members and saying, okay, we're going to go pick up the body out in the grave, or have you filled the grave because we got to go dig that body up.
If somebody saw this text.
Yeah, and I'm driving around with a wooden casket in the back of my pickup, and it's just like, it's so normal to me. But when I talk to even my friends, they're like,
that's not
that's
normal.
a bizarre
is
job. Yeah.
weird. You're going to get arrested someday for what you talk about. But there's a lot of that. And I enjoy meeting the people. I try to stay away from the actors so much, but I love the production company. I love, the team members that just kind of build it up. And that's always good memories.
I have to think the what did you call it? Catering on the bigger budget
Craft
ones.
services.
There we go. Is better than on the ones where the budgets are a little bit limited.
That's debatable, though. We've had both. We've had both. Yeah. Some have been unbearable. Others have been amazing. So yeah, it's just, you're in mercy of what the caterer does that day.
Well, I'm telling you, there's a good chicken salad recipe.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
There was one particular time, a movie in Missoula, where we had put in some heavy hours, and I was chinking a cabin in a downpour, and so we came in for our meal, and everything is beige. The chicken and the gravy is beige. There's nothing to put it on except for raw carrots that are soaked in vinegar, and then like a beige mushroom salad with marshmallows. So yeah, we kind of all just walked away, and they bought us pizza that night.
Oh my. Yeah, you don't ever want an all beige plate.
You never even think of that until the moment happens.
Yeah, because you've been working with so much beige drinking. You're like, I'm not eating
And
this.
at the end of a day like that too. Do you have are you doing anything with Western Art Week this year?
Yes, actually, I'll be showing with Calico Rodeo in the in the fairgrounds
Yeah.
design show, and it's gonna be great. We're trying to get busy for it.
And you've known Jody Rempel, who has been on our podcast before for a long time as well.
Yeah, I've did a lot of work for Jody for, I guess, 20 years now. I did some with her first home, and then I did her second home, and it was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I did 2 live-in horse trailers for her husband when he was rodeoing.
He's been on our podcast as well.
Yes. So got to do 2
Both
live-in
Jody.
horse.
Yeah.
Yep. And just amazing fun to work with those guys. Yeah.
Yeah. What don't you do, Shelly?
Balance a checkbook.
You don't want to do that. It's going to tell you things you don't want to know.
That's right.
I just
Don't
stay
look at
way
that.
away from that.
That's right. Yeah. What kind of work are you going to have in the show that you're showing for Western Art Week?
Yeah. Diane Hausman will be showing with us, and then I'll have my artwork, whatever I get done.
So TBD.
I am like 0. I think I got 1 that I'm happy with. But Diane and I do a lot of murals, and we're actually working on some murals in Shoto for their centennial. We've got 4 done. We've got 3 planned this summer. And so we're working on a different style that she does, and the different style that I do is our mural style. And so we're going to do 3 kind of 30s Wild Wild West
fun
paintings, 3 or 4 of them, just to kind of throw a twist in things. And so we're going to do that
I'm
this year.
kind of
intrigued.
exciting.
Yeah. I'll have to stop by and see it.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. We got some big old canvases, and I do my part on them, and then I give them to Diane. She does her part. She gives it back to me. I do my part.
How fun.
Or we sit together and have oatmeal for a week in the morning and every day. And
Got your beige
get them done.
breakfast?
Get our beige breakfast.
Let's drop some raspberries and blueberries in there.
Brown sugar, whatever. Yeah.
Is there a type of film that you prefer to do sets for?
I love the period piece movies. Yeah.
They are my favorite.
Yeah, contemporary westerns aren't as fun for me. I've done them, but they haven't been as exciting for me. I love the period piece, 18th century. I've done 12th century, and that was a little odd, but yeah.
I was watching a TV show. Good Lord, I'm not prepared for this at all. And it was fantastic. We got 2 seasons in, and it's about the kind of old money 1800s in New York City. And I loved watching it, period piece, kind of just the hierarchy of classes, and you had the servants and then the people with money and then new money and old money. And they had these beautiful homes, like beautiful homes. And we all know, of course, it's older in New York than it is here, but still I looked at that movie and I'm like, or that TV show, and I'm like, how are they creating this?
And
because
the budget for something like that.
Because it's like massive homes that don't exist anymore. And I'm like, is it just a set? Because you're back and forth on a street between these homes. And I'm like, this is just amazing.
Well, keep in mind that the outside of the home is not necessarily the inside of the home on this,
Right.
So the inside of the home could be a warehouse with these rooms set up in, so it's not necessarily what you're seeing as the outside of the home.
The grand staircases was one of the things I love about the old homes. It's a grand staircase, and I love this show. And if I loved it so much, you'd remember the name, right? I can't even remember what channel it was on. It was fantastic.
You'll think of it in the middle of the night.
Well, I'll Google it because it has Cynthia Nixon in it from Sex and the City. So
there you go. You have a start. You have a start at
there's
least
the
for
start of
Googling.
that.
There you go.
Who knows what's going on?
Yeah,
in
it's
my
pretty
mind.
amazing what the camera does.
But just the clothing and the mannerisms and all the things you have to be aware of what would have happened during that time and things you don't think about today.
Even by the time we get started on the movie, say the production designer comes in maybe 6 weeks earlier. And so the main production company has been on it for probably 5-6 years.
Oh, yeah.
You know, working on the details and trying to understand every situation of it, how we're going to film it, how the light's going to be, so on and so forth. They're constantly working on that. So by the time it comes to the film crew, you know, we're all blind. We walk in blind. And until you sit down in the production meetings and listen to them, you don't even understand the work that they've put in. And then you buy into it more. Then you start caring more. And then you start understanding that your job becomes more important because they've already done this amount of work. You know, so then you want to step up a little bit more because it's, you know, that's just human nature, I think.
Right.
But yeah, it is all a build up, and it's all, you just buy into it. You know, and you have to know the script. That's the main thing.
One of the big things I remember in Game of Thrones, big period piece, I would say.
A little bit.
But there were a lot of nitpickers that they would find, like the Starbucks cup or things like that. Do you notice those things when you watch TV or movies? Because I'm telling you, I'm so entranced with everything else. I'm not going to spend the time to see if someone's nails are... Well, I did notice that one time in a period piece, like their nails were freshly done, gel coats. And I'm like, that's not real.
Yeah.
It's not so much that you look for it. I think that some things stand out sometimes. You know, the length of the hair, the makeup color, or whatever. You'll just, some things you'll go, oh, that was odd, you know, or whatever. But yeah, you try to pay attention to all of that. And then we have an onset and on our art crew. And that onset stays with the camera all the time. And so before that camera shoots, she's in the camera, or he's in the camera, you know, on the screen watching everything. And that's their job, to just make sure all of that is, you know, cohesive and there's nothing, no teacups in there.
So now we know who to blame.
Right.
That's who we go to,
Yeah.
Yeah, there was only one time ever I was watching something and they had gel nails. And I'm like...
Like, how did that pass? Yeah.
That's not real.
Well,
No.
especially when you're doing, you know, the Westerns and you've got tipped over wagons and you've got arrows going everywhere and you've got a blood trail and then you've got snow that's melting and not melting. And so you've got to really pay attention to that.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that go on just to make it look seamless because they're not really killing people. They're not really, you're not really getting shot with arrows, or the house may actually be burning down, but who knows?
Yeah.
But when they are on fire, when you see the actors on fire right there in front of you, it's a little stunning. And then when you see people get hung, you know, then now I can understand how they do it. So I'm watching for that. Oh, they could see that wire in there.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's, I think, the seamlessness of letting someone immerse themselves in those stories and not realize what's happening. Every now and again, I'll catch myself going, how did they do it? How are they doing that? Because I know kind of the only way to make that happen is for that guy not to exist anymore, but yet I know he does. So it's just interesting sometimes to catch yourself thinking, how is that possible? And you know the magic of movies, but you just never really know what the magic is. And turns out it's Shelly.
Well, special effects and the stunt people are amazing. We have an amazing Montana film crew. It's just over the top.
Now, you are a Great Falls girl. Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell
Born
us a
and
little bit
raised.
about growing up in Great Falls.
Yeah, born and raised. I went to school at Sunnyside Elementary and East Junior High, and then CMR. So I was a runner and a gymnast. And then we grew up with horses, and we hunted with them mostly. But yeah, just a lot of hunting and water skiing and enjoying the great outdoors all the time. And you know, so yeah.
You said your boys were in Louisiana with you. Did they do any school time here?
Yeah, they were, it was like 13 and 14 and 15, I think. And my oldest stayed here. He was in the middle of wrestling, and the younger two came with me first. And then the oldest came down, and he actually went to work for me for a while.
Oh, nice.
But
cool.
but yeah, it was a hard adjustment. but it was good for them, and it was before the hurricane down there, so they got to see it and experience it, and they hated it every day. But now they talk about it, in a good way.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
But
good.
yeah, it's they're
And let's just do a great shout out for your grandson. Passing
Thank you.
English.
Yeah,
I-
hallelujah.
we're all proud of you.
Right?
Yeah, it's been a rough go. Senior year, you got it
Yes.
done. I'm so proud of him.
Good work.
So, do you get to have all your family still around you in the area? That's got to be somewhat nice.
Yeah, I've got 2 boys here in Great Falls and 3 grandchildren, and then 1 in Missoula and grandchild there. So yeah, it's been a blast. I love
That
it.
is pretty nice. They're all in a close proximity.
Yep.
That's
They're
right.
far enough away that they can't chop wood for me, but
man.
they did buy me a chopper for Christmas, a wood chopper, so I can do it myself now.
My brain went to helicopter chopper, and I was like, well, that was a big gift.
No, my
Just a
mind
wood chopper, earthquake.
my mind went to because my husband had my mom for Christmas. She got a wood splitter. Not a wood splitter, a kindling splitter.
Okay.
I don't want it to sound like we were
Yeah.
extravagant.
Well,
we
it
weren't.
might be a kindling splitter, but I'm putting big
big
logs
logs.
in there.
Nice.
We didn't get it mounted before we left, but yeah, it gives
right.
us something to do
There
next
you-
time we're up, I
There you
guess.
go.
Yeah.
You need that.
No, I love this area. Love growing up in this area, and I lived in Louisiana for about 1.5 years and couldn't wait to get back
Yeah.
here. So yeah.
Well, it is a fantastic place. I mean, we're a little biased.
That's
but
what we do. Yeah. Did you ever dream or have hopes or dreams of working in the film industry when you were little?
I didn't really think about it. I guess I wanted to be a backup dancer for Tina Turner. That was kind of
Well, that would have been amazing. Yeah.
it follows if you're a gymnast.
I
mean, it
yeah.
just,
I did a baton. I did the baton twirling.
Love it. Yeah.
it seems like the right path.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, when I became a quality engineer, that was kind of, I was excited about that. It was
Yeah.
just working in the commodities after the food safety stuff. It was fun for me. Organics, I love the organic, going into that too. I almost went more into that, but yeah, I kind of backed off a little bit. So, but I'm happy where I ended up. I was just so blessed. Yeah.
Did you work in the different artistic mediums when you were little as well?
Yeah, I did. My mom being an artist too, I grew up in the art world and all kinds of paints around me all the time. I did a lot of oils when I was younger, a lot of portraits, a lot of pastels when my kids were born because I had my boys in 80, 81, and 82. So 3 kids in 3 years. And then
It's a lot.
Get it done, get it out.
on birth control.
80s babies are the best, though.
But yeah, so when I started pastels, it was because I couldn't wait for paint to dry. I didn't have to worry about chemicals or anything with the kids. So I just started in pastels. And now my hands are tired, with the kind of work I do. So I started going back into oil pastels, which I've really had fun with and kind of developed that a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I like the sculpting probably the most. I just finished a big sculpture for North Star Trucking here in Great
Oh,
Falls.
cool.
And yeah, so
Metal, bronze, clay.
this was drywall sculpting. Yeah, this was just like a big mountain scene, 2 waterfalls, trees, birch trees. Yeah.
I love birch trees.
So
Mhm, me too.
I've been watching some people on TikTok that show you how to do watercolors.
Uh-huh.
And this is what frustrates me about kind of social media. Like they're doing it in real time and I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I could do that.
it looks so easy.
I can't. And I know that. And then but I'm still like,
But you
"Nah,
try?"
I'm going to save that cuz maybe one day I'm going to give it a shot. I'm probably going to do it and cuz I can do what they're doing.
Yep.
It seems pretty
Yep.
simple. It's not.
No.
Just the
It's
miles.
going to look stupid when I do it. How do I know? Because I
Because you
get
try.
I get into these little, like the whole jewelry making thing. I'm like, oh, I can make a beautiful necklace. Nope. No, I cannot. I can go and pick out things I like. I can't put it together to make it look like something you would actually wear in public. I've done it. I know. It's not going to happen.
Well, I know when I hire the crew that works for me on the films, I really try to pull what that person does well out of them. What is your favorite thing to do? and then use them in that area. So if it's painting, then I'm going to throw all the painting stuff at them and help them with what I know.
Yeah.
You know, try to give them that. If it's building, great, same thing. I've got tons of stuff to build. You know, and just find what they love to do and what they're good at and pull it out, and that's going to help me and what I'm trying to achieve. So, works good.
I like watching pasta being made. I also like watching eggs get sorted at Montana Eggs.
This is what Rebecca does in her free time. She just goes and stands outside
Is there a
warehouses.
chance I could just come watch you sort the eggs?
That's right.
And they'll be like, no.
Sure. Like, no, crazy lady.
Yep.
Need to get friends back in that industry. So I
Yeah,
just
got to work on
sit
that.
and watch every now and again.
We filmed at the prison on this last film, and that was an experience. You know, you're going into an environment that's controlled, and you've got an uncontrolled crew.
Yeah.
Was it the Shelby prison or like a not that?
The
Like
one here in Great Falls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cascade County
Cascade
Detention
County.
Center. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had the honor of going to prison in the Shelby prison, and that is an environment you are just never going to be used to, or should never become used to. Just the basics of, I went to the restroom. There's no lock on the door. And you don't think of that until you're in there and you're like, oh, there's no lock. And it's like, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense. You
Yeah.
wouldn't have a lock on a bathroom
Yeah.
door in prison.
Yeah.
When I worked for Pasta Montana, we developed a product that would cook quickly and freeze well and thaw so they didn't have a riot, you know, and not turn to mush. So we did a special granulation on the Durham to develop this product, and then I loaded all of it up in the back of my car and I drove it to the prison, and they cook tested it while I was there. And the
Oh my
same thing on
gosh.
the smell of my perfume, any of it was like, you have to go
Nope.
wash that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, it's just
It was
Fascinating that you
It's the
developed a
things-
special one.
well, that and the things you just don't think about. The warden, when I was there, explained like how you're supposed to walk down a hallway and certain things that we weren't supposed to be able to do. We got prepped beforehand. We were bringing material. Like, I wasn't a prisoner. I was visiting
It's
the
like,
prisoners.
what were you doing there? Maybe we should clarify.
I think that's all the clarification needed. But it was like, don't bring things that have website resources because they can't access the web, and don't bring things that have staples in it. I mean, just real basic things that you don't think about ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what a different world.
yeah. And that's
I
what
guess
you
it's
need.
supposed to be, but
Right.
Yeah. And that's what you need to share with your crew prior to getting in there. Here's how you need to accept this, and you know,
Yeah.
you know, when I dealt with the Japanese when they were buying Pasta Montana, it's how you accept, you know, a business card. You know, read the whole book on how to deal with this before you do it, and that's kind of what we do. We, you know, try to be proactive.
That's so. Sorry, quick comment on that. That's so funny that you mentioned specifically Japanese in the business card. So my husband worked at the Wheat and Barley Committee for a while, and that was something he told me because they dealt with the foreign trade teams coming in, and that was something he told me. He's like, okay, when you get a business card from, like in America, we just kind of take it like, oh, thanks. No, you take it, you hold it, you look at it, you read it, you really look at it, you really appreciate that you have it,
Yep.
and that's just a cultural thing. So that's so
Yep.
interesting because that's one of the things Jason like remembers distinctly from his time there. Yeah. Huh.
are there things that you have to remind people, like on a movie set, similar to things they wouldn't expect, or they're just not, like, you know, it's a movie set. Yeah, I know I'm going to prison. Yeah, I know I'm going to a movie set, but there's just certain things you have to remind people because it is not a normal thing.
Right. Yeah. It's a human nature. You know, you're dealing with human nature, so that's a yes.
Yes.
People.
You know, I have asked people to leave.
Okay.
You know, I have asked them to go to their car and take a break or whatever. So, you know, we protect each other, but we have to protect our environment. We have to respect where we're at all the time. That's, you know, whether we're filming in the courthouse or the jail or wherever, it's somebody else's.
I can only imagine I would not be good on set because I just get caught up and start just watching. And Shelly'd be like, hey, you're not here to watch.
Move.
Well, and I'm not a big one on set. I try to stay ahead or behind, and then I've got my on set or my set director or whatever that's working, and so I'm not on set unless I really have to be, because it's already, the work
Done.
should be done by then. So I'm either taking down the set that we'd already finished up with, or I'm prepping what we need to, that we're coming to. So, and then you don't have a lot of days, depending on the budget of the film, to wrap up. So you may be done filming on the 27th, but you have to be off the site on the 27th, so you can't be wrapping things up and delivering them. You have to have it done. So when we got done with the set, we wrapped it. Whether it took us till 5 a.m, it didn't matter. So
We're getting it done.
yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. I just remember being at the Caskey County Detention Center and just the juxtaposition of like you're standing there and on one side of the glass is the intake that they're literally like bringing people in, like intaking them. They had just been arrested, going through that process. On the other side, it's like,
On the
all
other
right,
side,
quiet.
we're strapping the director in the
Yes.
lockdown chair.
Yeah. And it was just because that was where it ended up working out to be able to shoot that scene. But it's so funny because you're sitting there, you're hearing them, like literally the other side of the glass behind
Yeah.
you, like they're going through the detectors and stuff. And then this side, they're like, all right, quiet, go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate getting to talk with you today.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Thank you. For me too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and just the fact that this kind of stuff happens right here in Great Falls.
That's right.
And we got that kind of knowledge. And maybe there's a woman in Rudyard that also does some stuff with
right.
movies.
Have
Absolutely.
to tell us if you ever meet this lady.
I'm going to look her up.
I'm going to have to email Sandy and go, this woman, you must know her. So thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Shelly. You're welcome.
Thanks for
Thanks for having me.
continuing to do things to make movies in Montana.
Yeah.
We love that, especially here in Great Falls, where we believe we should be the center of film in all of Montana.
Everything. That's
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's just my own personal opinion.
I mean, I agree.
I know nothing about.
We're the new
well,
LA, aren't we?
That's right.
So, folks, you're never going to be able to go where Shelly goes unless you get hired by her to help do long hours of work.
But you can watch
What she
her
does.
work and know a little behind the scenes tidbits now.
There you
Yeah.
go. So thank you for listening. Thank you for loving Great Falls, Montana. And folks, until we see your bright, smiling, happy, healthy, beautiful faces in our fair, fair city, please keep creating amazing memories with your friends and family wherever you might be. We'll see you soon.
We're No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town.